In Banta village, everyone knew Karim, the tall, muscular man whose roasted chicken brought crowds from far and near. From sunrise until late evening, smoke from his iron grill curled into the sky, carrying the irresistible aroma of spices. Even travelers planned their journey around Karim's stall, eager to taste his famous soft, juicy chicken. Come and buy tender chicken. Soft and sweet. Price for everyone. Karim shouted in his deep, cheerful voice that echoed across the market square. His apron always sat neatly at his waist, and his booming laughter made people smile. To outsiders, he looked like a man blessed in every way, money flowing, customers endless, life comfortable. But behind Karim's wide smile was a secret heavier than iron. No matter how many people bought chicken, Karim never ran out. Even when chicken prices rose everywhere else, his remained cheap. Some villagers joked that he must have money trees hidden somewhere. Others whispered more quietly, "This man is not ordinary, maybe he is using Guju." Still, the taste was too good, and hunger defeated suspicion. People kept returning. Meanwhile, other sellers struggled. One of them, a sharp-tongued woman named Auntie Zara, felt jealousy burn inside her. Her stall had been booming before Karim arrived. Now her sales dropped like rainwater slipping down a roof. "How can one man sell so cheap and still grow richer every day?" she muttered. "There is something hidden in that man's life." Her curiosity grew when Karim suddenly bought a big house in the village. He announced his new home proudly, smiling as his neighbors congratulated him. But in many hearts, a question rose like smoke: how can roasted chicken bring wealth so quickly? Despite the rumors, Karim ignored the whispers. Every morning, he roasted chicken with energy and excitement, but slowly something began to change. A sharp pain started in his right leg, small at first, then growing stronger day by day. He tied a cloth around it, pretending it was nothing. But sometimes, while serving customers, he stopped to press his leg, sweat forming on his forehead. One evening, as customers lined up at his stall, his legs suddenly refused to carry him. He collapsed into his chair, trembling. "Karim, are you all right?" a customer asked. Karim forced a smile. "I'm fine, my friend. It's just the heat from the fire." But deep inside, he knew the truth. The secret buried beneath his success was beginning to awaken. Karim's nights in Banta village were no longer peaceful. Every evening, after the market closed and the last customer disappeared into the dusty road, he dragged himself home, limping on his worsening right leg. Inside his small room, he would collapse onto a wooden stool and slowly unwrap the thick cloth around his thigh. What lay beneath was a secret no human eyes in the village had ever seen. The flesh on his leg was swollen, dark, and pulsing like a living drum. The edges were hard and hot, as if his skin was being cooked from the inside. Sometimes, a strange liquid oozed out, thick and warm. Karim clenched his teeth, knowing what it meant. Even worse, he felt something moving inside the wound, something alive. Yet he told no one. This pain had a history that began far away in Jatari city, long before Karim became Banta village's chicken king. Back then, he was a thin young man working in a spare parts shop in the bustling Laidipo market. Every day, he carried heavy engine parts, wiped oil from floors, and fetched tools for customers. But while his hands worked, his eyes watched the rich men who visited. They arrived in shiny jeeps, gold chains glittering, shoes polished like glass. Their voices carried confidence, their perfume filled the shop. To Karim, they seemed like gods walking among ordinary men. "Why must I suffer while others bathe in riches?" he would whisper angrily to himself. "Why did my parents leave me nothing?" Greed grew inside him like a planted seed. Among all the wealthy customers, one man fascinated him most, Chief Mandla, a powerful car dealer known across the city. Whenever Chief Mandla's convoy arrived, people stepped aside with respect. He laughed boldly, his gold chain bouncing on his chest. Kareem watched him with hungry eyes for months. Then, one hot afternoon, Kareem finally gathered courage. He stepped forward, hands still oily. "Chief," he said quietly, "please, show me the way. I don't want to die poor." Chief Mandla stared at him for a long moment, then smiled slowly. "You are brave," he said. "If your heart is strong, meet me tonight. We will talk like men." That night changed Kareem's life forever. He waited under a flickering street light as instructed. When a black jeep stopped beside him and the back door opened, anxiety gripped his chest. Inside sat Chief Mandla, half-lit, smiling faintly. "Get in," he said. Kareem obeyed. They drove in silence until they reached a small mud hut hidden behind the city. Inside sat Baba Kundu, an old man with a long white beard and eyes as sharp as midnight. "You seek wealth," Baba Kundu said. Kareem nodded. "I am ready." The ritual that followed would bind his soul, his body, and his future to a darkness he did not fully understand. Inside the dim mud hut, the air felt thick, almost alive. Kareem stood frozen as Baba Kundu's sharp eyes studied him from head to toe. Chief Mandla quietly folded his flowing agbada, rolled up the right leg of his trousers, and revealed something that made Kareem stagger backward in horror. On Chief Mandla's calf was a gaping wound, dark, deep, and crawling. Inside it, white worms moved in and out with slow, sickening motions, as if the flesh itself was their home. They wriggled like hungry spirits searching for escape. Kareem's throat tightened. Chief Mandla spoke calmly, as though discussing the weather. "This," he said, touching the wound with no pain, "is my bank. As these creatures grow, my wealth grows. They must be fed, through the living." Kareem felt cold sweat on his back. He wanted to run, yet something darker, greed, kept him rooted to the spot. Baba Kundu's voice rose like a drum. "If you desire riches that never dry, you must accept a wound like this. Every night, you will gather what grows inside it. You will feed it to food for others to eat. That is the price." The walls of the hut seemed to close in. The shadows thickened. Outside, the trees shook as if warning him. Kareem's heart pounded. He wanted wealth. He wanted a life free from suffering. This was the chance he begged for. "I accept," Kareem said, trembling. "Do it for me tonight." Baba Kundu nodded slowly, as if expecting that answer. He reached into a clay pot and pulled out a sharp, ancient object carved with strange markings. Then he began chanting words Kareem had never heard, words that made the air feel heavy and the lantern flicker wildly. Chief Mandla watched with a knowing smile. Suddenly, Baba Kundu slashed Kareem's right leg, deep, fast, merciless. Kareem screamed as burning pain shot through him. It felt like fire entered his flesh. Then he felt something worse, movement, like tiny claws crawling beneath his skin, settling inside his leg. His breath shook. Sweat dripped down his face. Baba Kundu finally spoke, "From tonight, you carry your own source of wealth. Feed it every night. Never fail. For if you do, what gives you riches will turn and consume you first." Chief Mandla placed a heavy hand on Kareem's shoulder. "Leave Jatari City. Go where nobody knows you. Start a business where people must eat every day." Kareem's fate was sealed. Before dawn, he packed his belongings and disappeared from the city, carrying a wound that would bring him everything he desired, and everything he feared. Before sunrise, Kareem left Jatari City with trembling hands and a burning leg. Chief Mandla's final words echoed in his mind, "Go where no one knows your name. Start a business where people eat every day." After days of travel, Kareem arrived in Bantu village, a peaceful market town where strangers were welcomed and questions were few. It was the perfect place to start over, and to hide what lived inside his right leg. He rented a small house with a wide backyard and immediately began building. With bamboo, ropes, and wire mesh, he constructed a large chicken pen. Villagers watched with curiosity. "Young man, you work like 5 people," an elder said with a smile. Karim laughed, hiding the pain that shot up his leg every few steps. "Yes, sir. Hard work brings blessings," he replied. Soon he bought chicks, dozens of them, and worked day and night to feed them. The chickens grew fast, stronger and fatter than any in the village. People praised him. "Karim's birds grow as if they eat gold," one man joked. Karim only smiled. But no one knew the true secret behind their growth. The midnight ritual each night, after the village slept, Karim locked his door, lit a small lantern, and slowly unwrapped the thick cloth from his leg. The wound pulsed with heat, throbbing like a beating drum. When he peeled off the cloth, the smell filled the room, heavy, sour, and alive. Inside the wound, white worms moved. He held a calabash beneath it and waited as the creatures and fluids gathered slowly. Baba Kundu's words rang in his ears: "Gather what the wound gives. Feed it to living food. Never fail." Once the calabash was full, Karim limped to the backyard and quietly poured the contents into the chicken's feed. The birds pecked eagerly, unaware of the darkness behind their daily meal. Only then, after rewrapping his leg tightly, would Karim lie down on his raffia mat and whisper, "Small pain, for big money. Tomorrow the queue will be long." The rise of a village legend. Within months, Karim began roasting the chickens on his wide iron grill at the market. The aroma was unlike anything the villagers had ever smelled. People traveled from far places just to taste it. Soon, the line at his stall was longer than any other in Banta village. Money poured into his pocket. People praised him. His fame spread. But every night, the wound on his leg grew hotter, deeper, more demanding. The bargain he made in that dark hut had begun to tighten around him. Karim's roasted chicken stall became the pride of Banta village. Every sunrise, smoke from his iron grill rose like a signal to the entire region. Travelers adjusted their journeys just to stop at his stall. Children saved their coins. Elders praised his skill. Even people who never trusted street food lined up with excitement. "Karim's chicken is soft like butter," they said. "His spice is magic," others added. Karim smiled, served customers with charm, and counted money every night. But behind his wide smile, something darker was brewing. The wound grew stronger. The wound on his right leg no longer waited for night to torment him. It pulsed during the day, sending sharp stabs of pain up his thigh and across his waist. Still, Karim forced himself to stand at the grill, flipping chicken as sweat poured down his face. Customers noticed his shaking hands, the tremble in his knees, the way he sometimes leaned against the table to catch his breath. "Karim, are you all right?" a young woman asked one morning. "I am fine," he lied. "The heat from the grill is strong today." But his voice was weak. His eyes were tired. And every night, when he uncovered the wound, he found it had grown deeper, darker, and hotter, almost as if something inside was eating its way outward. Yet he continued the ritual. The secret feeding. No matter how exhausted he was, Karim forced himself to collect the harvest from his wound each night. He poured the crawling mixture into the chicken feed, watching his birds swallow eagerly. Each morning, the chickens looked bigger, healthier, and strangely energetic. People marveled at how quickly they fattened. Karim's business flourished, but his health crumbled. The wound now smelled so strong that even he sometimes gagged. When he peeled away the cloth each night, the air thickened with a sour, burning stench. The flesh was turning almost black at the edges, hard like burnt wood. But he could not stop. Stopping meant breaking the pact. And breaking the pact meant death. The village begins to notice as days passed, Karim's limp became more visible. He walked slower, dragged his right foot, and often grimaced in pain. Auntie Zara, his jealous competitor, watched him from across the market. She whispered. Something is chasing that man. Success doesn't make a person walk like that. Others murmured too. Why is his stall always busy, yet he looks weaker every day? Why does his house smell strange at night? But hunger defeated suspicion. People kept eating. Karim kept cooking. And the wound kept growing. The dead of darkness was getting ready to collect its price. When the Harmattan winds swept through Banta village, dry, cold, and dusty, Karim's world quietly began to collapse. For months he had hidden the pain, the weakness, the trembling. But now, even simple movements felt impossible. The wound on his right leg burned like a furnace that never cooled, and each step felt like fire spreading through his bones. For days of silence, for the first time since arriving in Banta village, Karim's grill remained cold. One day passed. Then 2. Then 4. The villagers grew uneasy. No smoke rose from the market. No spicy aroma drifted through the streets. No cheerful shout of, "Come and buy soft chicken," echoed in the air. Neighbors gathered outside Karim's gate. "Karim. Are you there? Do you need medicine? Should we call the healer?" But from inside came only a weak, broken voice. "I'm fine, just resting." Yet the foul smell that drifted from his compound told a different story, a thick, sour odor that stung people's noses and made children cover their faces. Trapped inside his own house, inside his room, Karim lay on his raffia mat, drenched in sweat. His chickens clucked restlessly in the yard, waiting for their midnight feeding, but Karim could no longer stand. Every attempt to rise ended with him collapsing back onto the floor, trembling with agony. The wound pulsed like a beating heart, heavy, hot, and alive. When he dared to unwrap it, a blast of stench filled the room. The flesh had turned black at the edges, hard like charcoal. The center throbbed, swollen and stretched. He knew the truth. He had failed the pact. He could not feed the wound. And now the wound would feed on him. The night of horror, one stormy night, lightning flashed across the sky. Thunder rumbled like a giant drum. Wind whistled through the cracks of his weak mud walls. Karim lay trembling when suddenly, a tearing pain exploded through his leg. It ripped upward, across his thigh, into his stomach, his chest, his arms. He screamed, but the storm swallowed the sound. The wound burst open with a wet, sickening crack. Then it began. First, a few white shapes pushed through the torn flesh. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Worms, thick, pale, writhing, poured out of his leg, spilling onto the floor like a living flood. They moved fast, crawling across his mat, climbing his limbs, slipping under his skin. He felt them in his stomach. His arms. Even behind his eyes. He opened his mouth to scream, but only worms came out. The room filled with their wet rustling as the storm roared outside. The chickens fell silent as though listening. By the time dawn began to lighten the horizon, Banta village was quiet. Too quiet. Karim's fate had been sealed by the very thing he fed. When dawn broke over Banta village, the storm clouds drifted away, leaving an unsettling silence behind. For the first time in years, not a single rooster crowed near Karim's compound. Even the usual laughter of children on their way to fetch water was absent. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. A group of neighbors gathered outside Karim's gate, exchanging anxious glances. "He hasn't opened his stall in days. That smell is getting worse. We cannot leave him like this. Something has happened." With trembling hands, an elder pushed the gate. It creaked open. A cold, sour wind rushed out, carrying a stench so powerful that people stepped back instantly. Still, they pressed on, calling Karim's name. Silence answered. Finally, they reached the door of his room. After a brief prayer for courage, they pushed it open. Horror in the dark, the sight inside froze every heart. The little house was dim, lit only by the early morning sun slipping through a cracked window. On the floor lay Kareem's raffia mat, soaked and stained. The walls seemed smeared with something dark. But the worst was at the center of the room. Kareem was gone. Not gone as in missing, gone as in consumed. Nothing remained of him except pieces of torn cloth and patches of skin stuck to the mat. The floor was crawling with pale, wriggling worms. They pulsed and wriggled in thick clusters, as if they had feasted all night and now had no appetite left. Women screamed. Men covered their mouths. Children were rushed away. Someone whispered in a shaking voice, "This is not sickness, this is not ordinary." Another murmured, "He made a bargain with darkness. And darkness has collected its debt." The abandoned house. By midday, the village elders sealed Kareem's house. No one dared touch anything. No one even approached the backyard where the chickens stood silently, as if they had known what happened long before the humans did. For weeks, children were warned not to go near the compound. Grass grew tall around the house. The grill rusted. The once busy chicken pen fell silent, overtaken by weeds. Kareem, the man who once brought life to the market, became nothing more than a ghostly whisper in village tales. The lesson that remains. Later that year, the elders gathered the youth and told them the full story. "Greed," they said, "does not fill a man, it finishes him. What you feed for wealth will someday feed on you. Anything gained through hidden darkness is never a blessing. It is a debt waiting to be collected." Kareem had chased riches without patience, without integrity, without fear of consequences. And in the end, the very thing that gave him wealth grew hungry for him. From that day onward, whenever villagers smelled roasting chicken, they remembered the tale of Kareem, the man whose greed brought him riches, fame, and a terrifying end.